So good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're sort of located in the world. Welcome to today's webinar, Better Together, Combining Process Mining and Modelling for Operational Excellence. We're so glad that you could join us today for what promises to be a really exciting session with Shoaib. You'll notice that everyone on the call today is muted, but we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. So feel free to submit your questions anytime during the webinar in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. All registrants will receive the recording at the end, so be sure to keep your eye out for that tomorrow. If you don't receive it or have any questions about what we cover, be sure to just send us an email. We'll put that on the screen at the end. So without further delay, let's get started, Shoaib.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. I am Shoaib Javed. I'm the Chief Product Officer at iGraphics. So our topic today is Better Together, how you can combine process modeling and process mining to achieve operational excellence. So let's go through the agenda real quick, and then we can get into it. So I'm going to start by talking about the challenges companies face when they embark upon operational excellence. We will then see how or why you need process intelligence to address those challenges. And then we'll go into details of how you could actually implement process intelligence, what approaches should you take to achieve your goals. We'll look at how to get started, right? Because a lot of people get intimidated by how much work there is to do this. So we'll talk about how can you get started and get results immediately, and then we'll talk about our process intelligence platform from iGraphics, Process 360 Live, and how that can help you implement process intelligence for your company. And finally, we'll have a Q&A session. If you have questions throughout the session, please enter them in. And then at the end of the webinar, we will address those questions that came in, okay? All right, so when we speak to customers, to companies that want to improve their overall operations, there are a number of things that they face as challenges, right? So the first one is they don't have visibility into the business processes that they use on a day-to-day basis. They are also not making decisions based on data. So here I'm not talking about just large strategic decisions. I'm also talking about smaller decisions that thousands of employees make every single day, multiple times, right? So how do you get the right data to make the right decisions at the point at which you make them? And the last thing is, right, how do you tie your existing business processes and the way you execute those business processes to your overall business strategy, right? So if you have certain corporate goals that you need to meet, how are those goals then cascaded down to the way you actually run your operations through your business processes, right? So these are the three challenges that most companies face when they're looking to improve operational excellence. Okay, so now, it's important, right? So operational excellence is something that you should look at if you're not, because that could significantly improve how you do business, right? So per McKinsey and Company, companies that achieve operational excellence can reduce costs by up to 30% and improve process efficiency by 50%, right? So you can actually become really good if you go and implement operational excellence. Okay, so to do that, to implement operational excellence, you need process intelligence, right? Because a business is a sum of its processes. So great processes build lasting transformation, bad processes are expensive, right? And they actually are a drain on productivity. So to achieve operational intelligence, you do need to understand processes, and therefore you do need process intelligence, because process intelligence can help deliver the business processes of the future today, right? So those business processes of the future will help you improve productivity by getting more done, by creating a higher quality of output, and you'll get better business outcomes with the same amount of resources, right? You can also reduce costs and make sure that you running your business in the most efficient way possible. And then finally, compliance, right? So you want to make sure that you are keeping up with both internal and external compliance requirements, as well as the standards that apply to you as those compliance requirements and standards change. You need to make sure your processes are keeping up and that you'll be able to meet audits, right? So this is the reason why you would implement process intelligence to achieve operational excellence, because it helps you do all of the things I talked about. Okay, so what is process intelligence? We know why you need it, but what is it, right? So as a concept, process intelligence is everything you need to understand the who, what, why, when, and where of processes, right? So everything to do with business processes, you're able to understand it and then improve it. And as a software category, right, where you actually implement process intelligence in software, it's a combination of technologies that come together to give you, that come together. So these technologies are like process mining, task mining, process modeling, simulation, automation. All of those things come together to give you the right outcome where you're continuously optimizing and improving your business processes as you run your business, right? So those are the two things that you look at to understand what process intelligence is. And again, on the right-hand side, right, it's important to understand that you need an integrated solution, right? So something that combines both the understanding of the business processes as well as the modeling and simulation, and as well as continuous operational improvement, right? And process intelligence will help you shift from where you are in terms of a baseline to where you need to be, right? And making sure that you're able to measure those outcomes as you transform. So it has to be objective, it needs to be measured, it needs to be focused, right? And it also can help you make complex things simple by visualizing what your processes are, how they execute, where there might be problems, and so on, right? So that's what process intelligence does. It allows you to understand your processes. It then allows you to model and simulate better ones. And then finally, as you run those processes, it helps you optimize them continuously. Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper into the three things I talked about, right? So I think three things are easy to remember. So for us, when you do implement process intelligence, what do you have to think about, right? The first part is discover. This is basically understanding how your business processes run today, so that you can achieve a baseline to say, okay, I now understand how I do business, which is an objective thing, right? So you get objective visibility into how your processes run in reality. And when you do get that objective visibility, you can also uncover inefficiencies, bottlenecks, and opportunities for improvement. So the first part of implementing process intelligence is discovering and understanding your existing business processes. The second part then is to design better processes, right? So how do you think your business processes should run tomorrow? So here you're building an ideal future state process, and you're doing that collaboratively, right? So the whole idea here is that there are multiple stakeholders that are interested in the outcome of your business processes, and therefore you need their input when you do design these business processes. And these people could be business analysts, this could be people that are business unit heads, this could be people that run the processes on a day-to-day basis. All of those people need to collaborate to build an ideal future state. You also want to quantify the future performance goals based on proposed changes. So you need to have some objectives, some metrics of what you actually want to improve with the process designs. And then also, as you're designing the to-be processes, you need to have a way to make sure that the processes are compliant with regulations and internal policies. This is important because as things change, keeping up with compliant and regulations becomes a big deal, and something that not only do you have to do, but you have to prove that you do it to your auditors, right? So when you design processes, compliance is a big part of that process design. Okay, and then the last step is running processes, right? So you need to optimize your production processes on an ongoing basis by understanding the opportunities for improvement as you run them. So again, here you're executing continuous improvement based on identified opportunities. And again, you're safeguarding against future inefficiencies through real-time monitoring. So the idea is that as your processes run, you monitor them in real time. It doesn't have to be up to the second real time. It can be near real time, but at least you're looking at on a, say, a daily basis what's going on. And then as you monitor what's going on, you can improve things that you believe are broken, or even use software to do predictive analytics where the software can tell you things that are likely to go wrong in the future, and therefore you can do something about it now to prevent that from happening, right? So you can prevent inefficiencies and other problems from occurring through predictive analytics, or you can look at things that do go wrong and fix them as they go wrong. Okay, and then this is where you also look at automation and opportunities to optimize your business activities as you run your business processes, right? So again, remember, the first part is discovering, understanding what your processes are. The second part is designing better ones collaboratively. And then the last part is when you do actually deploy your design processes into production, you need to optimize them on an ongoing basis. Okay, so a lot of things to think about. So where do you start, right? And again, there is not it's not one way or the other, right? So some people can start with process mining, right? And process mining where you actually instrument your backend systems so that you can collect logs and data from your backend systems, and the process mining will tell you what your processes look like. It will give you a digital representation of that process, and then it will help you understand improvement opportunities and what are the root causes of problems. And then you'll also find out that you execute a process 100 different ways, and maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should only operate your process in 3 or 4 different ways, which are called variants. So you don't want to have 700 variants of how you do things, because those are inefficient, and so you can get rid of certain things that you don't need, or not do things that you're doing wrong. So some people can begin with process mining. On the flip side, you can also begin with process modeling, right? So again, if you don't have backend systems that you can easily get data from, that you haven't instrumented, you can use your existing process documentation, standard operating procedures and things like that to model your process, right? And once you model your process, you can then understand how processes are linked to your overall business strategy and your KPIs. So what metrics within the process actually contribute to how you want to look at the overall business much more strategically, and what KPIs you need to meet. And then also process modeling helps you evangelize why you should make changes, right? So you can tell people, hey, look, if we change our process this way, then I can save you this much time, or I can save you that much cost, or we can potentially look at automating certain things, right? But it's not one thing or another, right? And this is what the webinar is about. We believe that you need both, and that you can combine both in very effective ways to get the best outcome for operational excellence, right? So you can start either way. You can start with modeling and then add mining, or you can start with mining and then add modeling. It doesn't matter. Just depends on where you are in your journey. But we believe that the both things are like the yin and the yang, and they work together, and you need them to work together to achieve the best possible outcomes. Okay, so let's dive into a little bit more detail on what how this would work. All right. So what does modeling do? Process modeling do? Process modeling contextualizes mining, right? So what that does is it says, okay, fine, I discovered some process information through process mining. I can see what my processes look like in the real world. But then you can take process design to tie what you have discovered to process mining to your overall business strategy. You can say, okay, fine, these are the processes that are in this business area. This is owned by this person. This is who's responsible, right? So you can also model other metadata, right? Like your teams, your other assets, what kind of compliance and regulations that you might be subjected to, what products you build, what are the programs. So you can add a whole lot of other business requirements to your business processes, and then you can also tie your overall business strategy to it. You can also define the gold standard, right? You can say, okay, I'm doing my process this way today, as discovered by process mining, but how should I do it, right? How should it really work? Not what I'm doing today, but how it should be. And you're able to then check, right? So you can do a conformance check that says, is my process working as I wish it to, as I want it to be designed? And therefore you can say, okay, where are the gaps that I need to fill to make it so, right? So this conformance checking is really interesting, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. So that's how modeling contextualizes mining. And then what does mining do, right? So mining actually gives you real world measures and KPIs that you can add into your models. So it will give you process metrics. It will say, okay, are you healthy, right? How long does it take you to do a business to a business activity? How long does it take you to do that? Where are the bottlenecks? How many, for example, if you're a bank, you can say how many loans do you process every month? How long does it take you to process one or to reject one? How much money do you make, right? What's your free cash flow? There's a whole bunch of metrics that can come out of process mining that will feed into your process design. It will also help you size opportunities for improvement, right? So it will say, okay, where should I apply my investments into process improvement to give me the best possible results? Mining will also do root cause analysis, right? So it will actually look at problems and say, what is the root cause of the problem and what should you actually change to fix that problem as a root cause, not just a symptom of what's going on. And also finally, mining will help you in that same thing I talked about, which is conformance checking, right? That is, I have the real world here and now that mining can tell you what's going on. And does that real world here and now, how does that match to what I think the process should be? Okay. So this part, right, which is common in both modeling and mining, kind of brings it together so that you can look at what's happening in the real world versus what you hope should happen. Okay. So let's dive into this conformance checking a bit in the next slide, and we can talk about that, right? So here is an example of conformance checking, right? So what you see here is a design process, right? It's a standard BPMN process diagram. And what we are doing here is we are overlaying process mining variants on top of that design. So we can say, look, this is your actual design, but then this is how people are executing the processes, right? So they might be skipping some steps, they might be adding some extra steps that you didn't know about. So you're going to find out all kinds of interesting things where you have deviation from your design process in the real world. And those deviations could be problematic, right? Because if you skip some compliance steps, that would not be a good thing. Or if you add some additional things that you do that are not part of your process design, then maybe you're inefficient, right? And also if you see that you're doing certain things that are missing in the process design, then you can say, hey, my process design is not accurate because there are some other things that are happening that I haven't accounted for, and therefore I should account for that in my process design, right? So it helps you keep your process designs up to date with what's really going on, and it helps you identify things that your users may not be doing that they should be doing, or things that they do and should be doing that you haven't accounted for in your design. Okay, so that's how you can combine process modeling and mining for conformance. All right, so let's figure out how to now do this, how to actually implement process intelligence for operational excellence in your company, right? So what we are saying is start small, be pragmatic, but then once you start, you can then organize yourself as you go along to into a program, into something that scales up, right? So again, there are certain things to think about before you start that we have learned, over decades of people doing this, and what you do and what you don't do. So the first one is, right, find out why you want to do something first, right? And I know this is very obvious, right? That, okay, you need to figure out what your ROI is, how you're going to measure it, right? But people don't do this, right? So be clear about your goals. And I'm not saying that you should have 100 metrics, but have some way of measuring success, define what your ROI is, understand why you want to do process intelligence, right? What would you hope to improve as you do it? Okay, that's the first thing. The second part is, right, a lot of times, right, people buy into this whole standard process model, right? Now, it's good to look at a standard process model, but I think you should look at what your business actually needs and design processes to match those needs, right? So the purpose of the process is to serve your business, to help improve your business, to help make it more efficient, right? Not the other way around, right? So you don't want to fit your business into a process, you want to fit your processes to match your business. So don't buy into that standard model concept, figure out what you really need, and then adopt your processes to match your business. And of course, when you're looking at process intelligence or process intelligence solution, it's a it's an important choice because, again, improving operational excellence could be a big deal for your business, right? So make sure that when you choose a vendor for your software for process intelligence, you look at all the aspects to make the right choice. Okay, so those three areas would be very important when you begin. Um, and then how do we begin, right? So again, we recommend beginning small, right? You can start by tackling a very well-defined specific business opportunity within a specific process. And of course, these processes, right? You will know that there are 2 or 3 processes that are problematic, that everyone's complaining about, that need improvement immediately because they're holding you back. So pick one where you can show the impact or the ROI almost immediately. And again, you don't need a lot of people to do that. You can start with a couple of people, look at an area within that business process and help improve it. You can then expand horizontally or vertically within the process. Right now, you can tackle more areas of that processes, more departments, more things that are within that process. You then take that one process success and apply it to multiple processes within different lines of business. There you can have a dedicated center of excellence now because you showed the value, you showed how much better your process got when you actually looked at it, analyzed it, improved it. Now you can do that for a number of different processes, and then you can have basically optimizing your entire business, right, through a connected digital twin. So you can add more metadata, you can add more organizational data, systems data, and other data into it. So now you're looking at a holistic view of your entire business and your operations as a digital twin of your operation, to then look at it for your entire business, right? So again, you're going from business operations to business value through the 3 steps we talked about: discover, design, and optimize. You can do it in a micro fashion with a very small area of a process to multiple processes to your entire company, right? So you can start small and then progress forward as you go along. Okay, a little bit more about the best practice, right? I think it's important, right? A lot of people just say, oh, let me just get a library of processes and then I can just implement that for my company. Don't do that. You can reference them. There will also be software vendors, right, that will tell you to follow certain things because their software works a certain way. And the large vendors that do enterprise ERP systems and so on will tell you, well, standardize, because that way you can conform to however my software works. And it's nice, but that's not how your actual business works. Of course, you have consultants and people that will advise you on how your processes should work. They're great. You can follow their advice because you want to take advantage of what other people have done. But again, you still need to insert yourself and say, no, this is how I want to do business. Therefore, you're right. I can take certain part of your standard process, but I wouldn't take all of them, right? And then again, the reference data and certain benchmarking is good to say how you're doing against industry best practice. But again, those benchmarks only apply if you're doing things that your peers are doing, because if you're doing something very different, then those benchmarks are not meaningful, right? So enough on the best practice part. Of course, choosing the right vendor. So there's a plug for us over here, right? Choose a vendor that's good at process intelligence and that has an integrated set of features. And iGraphics, of course, our platform provides one. So again, a plug for us. And again, if you need more information about our solution, we'll be happy to answer more questions about it. Okay, so getting into more details about iGraphics Process 360 Live. And again, as I said earlier, right, a good process intelligence platform will help you discover and baseline your processes, collaboratively design better ones, including simulating outcomes when you design processes, and then be able to monitor your processes in real time and optimize it. Okay, so let's break down the capabilities that a platform should offer. So on the discover side, you can discover processes through process mining, which is actually looking at your backend systems, your ERP systems, your CRM systems, your accounting systems, and so on, collecting data from your backend systems, and then using that data to build process flows and understand inefficiencies. You can also do the same thing from your desktops, right? So on the desktop, you can look at how your people do certain tasks. So that's called task mining. So you can actually look at what people do on a day-to-day basis on their desktop and then get process information out of that and opportunities for improvement. These days, we also have capabilities with Gen AI, which is the process intelligence assistant within Process 360 Live that can actually take a conversational view of process information. You can tell it how your process works. You can also feed documentation or SOPs into it, and then it will take that information and construct process models for you, right? So multiple ways of discovering and baselining your processes, and we recommend an all of the above approach. Take different ways to tackle it, right? Which is, systems as well as information in people's head, as well as existing documentation to do that process discovery. On the design side, right, you do need to model your processes collaboratively. You need to be able to generate value stream mappings. You need to be able to understand customer journeys, all of the things that represent a model of your process with documentation, with standard operating procedures, with videos, with other metadata and supporting information that has everything related to your process. You can also do process simulation, which is actually running data through your process designs to see how your designs will perform before you deploy them into production, right? So you can get process simulation as part of that. And of course, risk management, right? So risk management is where you identify various risks associated with the process, as well as controls that are designed to manage that risk, as well as standards compliance and those kind of things. And you can also report on risk, right? So a good design solution should allow you to do all of the things that are mentioned there. And then finally, when you're optimizing, you need to be able to monitor your processes on an ongoing basis. You need to be able to do predictive analytics, which is actually trying to understand where your processes are going, where your incomplete processes are going, and whether you might have problems in the future if you don't do anything now, if you don't intervene now, right? So it allows you to actually do something based on what you believe will happen rather than looking into the rear view mirror. And of course, you also want to integrate into your enterprise applications so you can execute automation for your processes, right? So you need to be able to automate various aspects of your processes. For that, you need to integrate into your enterprise applications and then be able to run that automation and orchestrate that automation as you build more, okay? So all of this, it's nice to have this functionality individually in the discover, design, and optimize boxes. But much more important than that is to combine all three of them, to integrate them so that your discovery, your baseline information feeds into your design then feeds into your optimization, and then as you're monitoring and executing your processes, they feed into discovery for a new baseline, right? So you have a baseline to start with, you did some design to improve it, you did some simulation to understand how the improvements will create ROI. You then deployed it into production, you monitored it, and you said, okay, what did I get after I do my new designs, my new automation? And then you have a new baseline now because your discover now said, okay, this is what I do today now after the optimization. So now I'm going to do it again, right? So that's why you have this continuous loop of discovering, designing, and optimization, and then you get better and better and better as you go along. So the platform Process 360 Live, which is from iGraphics, offers all three of those capabilities in an integrated platform and allows you to actually do all of the functionality that I talked about in a single platform. Okay. All right. So in summary, process intelligence is key to business transformation, to operational excellence, because good processes build lasting transformation. Bad processes are expensive. Process mining and modeling together would create an n squared value for you, right? They would improve exponentially your returns rather than using them individually. So together you get n squared effect, right? Not n plus n, but n squared to actually improve exponentially. And your process improvement journey and processes are unique, right? But the core principles of operational excellence and process intelligence aren't unique. So you can apply those principles to your process improvement journey, focus on your ROI, don't buy into best practices models, and of course, choose the right solution to implement process intelligence. Okay, with that, let me turn over to Q&A. Okay,
Great.
did we have any questions come in?
Yeah, I'll just check. Thanks for that great presentation, Shoaib. So we've got one question so far. Anyone else with a question, be sure just to put it in the Q&A box at the bottom. So the first question says, if your processes are largely linked to email, Excel, etc., and not in a clear system logs or path, is it better to start with process modeling?
Yes, absolutely. Because if you're unable to connect to backend systems and get the data you need, use process modeling. And also, these days, right, we have added some Gen AI capabilities that would make it easier for you to collect that process information, right? You can have a conversation with the system and tell it what your processes look like, and it will ask you questions to actually create your model for you. Or if you have documentation of your processes, just physical, standard operating procedures or other documents, you can feed them into the system too, and then Gen AI will read them and construct the models, right? So life becomes a little easier even if you don't want to do mining to begin with.
Definitely. So we've got another question that's just come in. How much data do I need to do process mining?
It's not how much, it is representative data of your processes, right? So I would say, look, if you use an ERP system like SAP or Oracle or Infor or something like that, I'd start there, right? I would instrument and get data out of those systems. They give you lots of data, so you can use that. You just need representative data, right? You don't need lots and lots of data. But of course, if you have more data and you have more instances of your process execution, that helps. But just getting all aspects, right? For example, when you create a purchase order, we need to see what you did to create the purchase order, and then when you do the fulfillment, and then you do the delivery, and then you send the invoice. We just need a representative sample of each of those stages of your process.
Right. So that's all questions we've got for now. If anyone has one, just be sure to put it in the Q&A box and we'll get to it. But there was a third question on there, but I answered it. We do have some excellent learning resources on iGraphics University, which covers design, mining and simulation. So if you're looking to upskill or learn some more, be sure to head to iGraphics University. We have another question in now, Shoaib. Thank you very much. So what if I have a bunch of stale Visio diagrams at a retail bank, e.g. for a mortgage process? How can I implement into getting initial modeling, and can Gen AI pull in Visio models?
Yes, so Gen AI can pull in Visio diagrams, but we also have Visio import, right, which is designed specifically for Visio. So you could just take your diagrams and import it into our system. It will understand what you were trying to do with Visio and then get them in there, right? So that will help accelerate that process for you.
So a couple more have come in, thank you. So how much effort does it take to make a proof of concept?
like I said in the beginning, right, if you're just focused on one process and certain aspects of it, we could do a proof of concept in days, right? And actually can show you value, right? It would not take more than 3 or 4 days to show you that from beginning to end.
Right. Yeah, obviously, if you're interested in a proof of value, be sure to follow up with the team. There is normally an email on there. I'll pop it in the chat. So it's info@igraphics.com. So I'll put that in the chat if you have any specific questions. So we've got a couple more show. How can RCSA outputs be used to get to an automation and predictive analytics state?
Okay. I do not understand the acronym CSA, right? If you would let me know what you mean by CSA, then I would be able to answer that question.
Just see what else there is. The question about Archer, have you tied regulatory metadata at a bank with a GRC system like Archer before?
We have actually, that's a very interesting question. We have a couple of banks where we have connected to Archer and are able to pull control information out of Archer and tie it back to the business processes. So if you're specifically interested in that, just contact us and I can talk to you more about it.
Great. And we've got, RCSA is risk control and self-assessment. So going back to that question.
Yeah, yes, we can pull some of that information from your existing CSA systems and bring it into the process also, right? Yeah, absolutely.
One more question, probably. Which modules of iGraphics do they need to create risk registers and do the risk management in general?
It's the design solution, so the process design module that allows you to do that.
Okay.
And it will also allow you to link to your risk management systems or GRC systems if you have them.
Right. Well, thank you everyone for your questions, and thank you, Shoaib, for answering them all. It's really interesting to hear everyone's point of view after the webinar. There's a question about the recording. Everyone will receive the recording likely tomorrow or slightly later today. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, Shoaib, for your excellent presentation. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Great. Thank you everyone for attending.